Now here's a shocker. We're all told Germany is, Germany setting the rules for the Eurozone and Greece and Portugal and Spain and everybody else because Germany is the bomb, man. Germany is that deal. They ain't got no problems like everybody else. There's no way then any German banks will have any trouble, right? That's what we're being told. I mean, Germany's the one that's dictating a lot of these rules because they're so physically sound. No problems here. So there can't possibly be a bank downgrade, can there? No, probably not. How about 6? It's all over BBC News 24 as breaking news. Moody's downgrades credit ratings of 6 German banks. No, is today April 1st? April Fool's Day? April, May, June. No, we're pretty far past April. I guess this is real. Ratings agency Moody's has cut their credit ratings of 6 German banks and 3 in Austria. The biggest bank affected was Commerzbank, Germany's second biggest lender, which was cut from A3 to A2. Moody's delayed a decision on the rating of Germany's bank, Deutsche Bank. So Germany's biggest bank, which I love because this is one of the too big to fails. I hear about it all the time. It's one of the club, Deutsche Bank. And then their second bank, which you don't hear about all that often, Commerzbank. So we have the first largest bank, or the biggest bank. Then we have the second biggest bank. And I love those words. My dad was talking to a lady this is a little while ago, a few months ago, at JP Morgan. At a JP Morgan, either he was at the location or something, they were offering some kind of thing, we'll give you $100 if you open an account with us or something. So he wanted to go in there to see, what is this about? Are you really giving people money to open an account? So he sat down and talked to the lady and see what he didn't go with them, but nonetheless, he sat down and talked with this lady, and yeah, and this is back, I said a few months ago, but this is probably more than a year ago, to be honest with you. It may have been it's probably 2010, I'm guessing. And there are still problems with the banking situation, so everyone knew about it. And he mentions to her, but, a lot of banks are in trouble right now. It seems like almost all the banks are in trouble. If you're a bank, you're pretty much in trouble, And I don't remember what prompted him to say that or something like that, but she says, sir, JP Morgan's the largest bank in America. In other words, you're dealing with the biggest of them all. You're fine. You're safe. This is the biggest bank in America. It can't possibly be the biggest bank in America if we've got problems. I mean, come on. We're that deal. That's basically what she's saying. But hold on a minute. Because Moody's delayed Germany's largest bank, Deutsche Bank. Why? Because it's one of the club. That's why. I don't care what they say why, and they're not going to probably comment why. But they delayed the decision on that one. But 6 other banks, including the second largest German bank, were downgrading. How could that be? Moody's, do you not know you're dealing with, son, you're dealing with Germany, son. They're about to come over there and blast you, son. You're messing with Germany. Oh, but wait a minute. I guess they are not immune after all. Today's rating actions are driven by the increased risk of further shocks emanating from the euro area debt crisis, Moody's said. The 6 German banking groups affected were Commerzbank, DEKA Bank, DZ Bank, Landesbank, Baden something, and Landesbank Hessen Thuringen, and Noord-Dutch Landesbank. Okay. Moody's also cut the rating of the Italian bank UniCredit's German unit. In Austria, it downgraded the 3 biggest banks. Not just 3 banks, not little credit unions, the ones who are fiscally responsible most of the time, right? If not all the time. Here's that word again. Now hold on a minute. I just said the biggest banks in Germany, and they declined. They're putting off the largest bank, Deutsche Bank. But it's coming, obviously, so you can add Deutsche Bank, it's guaranteed. Largest bank in Germany, second largest bank in Germany, and some other banks in Germany. Here we are in Austria, of all places. Didn't think that one would come up. The 3 largest banks in Austria together, all 3 of them are the largest. It names the 3, whatever. UniCredit, Erste Bank and Raiffeisen something Bank International. The ratings agency said Austrian banks were also vulnerable to conditions in Central and Eastern Europe, as well as the Commonwealth of Independent States. It also said that banks in Germany and Austria had a limited capacity to absorb losses. As I said, not that this is some kind of prophecy or like I'm supposed to get huge credit for saying it, because to me a freaking monkey that can't even speak could see this coming. But we have these things called derivatives. Bets on bets on bets. Bets on a bet basically. And they are to the tune of, some say over $1 quadrillion, some say it's at least over $600 trillion in total, which combined with the entire world's output, GDP, whatever, money combined, all of that added up doesn't even compare to that amount of money. Yet somehow these pieces of paper were created and a value was attached to them somehow, just to show you how fraudulent banking and economics, at least on the banking side, are. You can't have stuff worth more than the money you are capable of even creating and has already been created that you're currently working with, and including the entire world combined. I mean, that's just not possible. Why is nobody talking about this on mainstream? At least yet. They will be. As Lindsey Williams said, you start to hear that word derivatives coming on the mainstream news, you know we're getting close. That's what my guy told me. And by chance, we've already heard it a few times recently, and I don't think by any means it'll be the last time anytime soon. So, what's the gist of this article I just read? Every one of these banks, Moody's is downgrading, which is going to next be, soon enough anyways, Deutsche Bank, which I love because that's one of the top banks. It's one of the club. Love it. They are all, not one of them is immune to the Eurozone crisis. So what happens in any part of the Eurozone is apparently going to affect everybody in the Eurozone. And I can tell you why, and this is only part of the reason why. There's probably a lot of other reasons why, such as people pulling their money out of the banks in the Eurozone, whether it's Spain, Greece, Portugal, Ireland, wherever, and they are pulling it out, by the way, by the droves. That's going to affect them too. But the derivatives problem is when one of these suckers goes, there's counterparty risk. Counterparty risk is basically, it's part of it. You can't not have counterparty risk. So in other words, this giant fell and there were chains attached to all these different parties around them, and all those different parties by chance happens to be most, if not all, of the largest banks in the entire world, including over here in the United States, by the way, not just Europe. And when the giant falls, he's pulling the chains with him. So counterparty risk, who is going to be affected by this bank failing? And if that bank that's failing wrote credit default swaps or insurance contracts on some kind of debt in Europe, other banks lost their bets on that debt in Europe. Okay, now we go claim our insurance, right? Our credit default swaps. Let's go cash those suckers in, because that's what it was for. That if this thing defaulted or we had problems over here, we still have these credit default contracts, which are basically insurance contracts that make us whole again. Except the person who issued those contracts, you bozo banks, is the giant that fell. What? Yeah. The giant bank that fell issued you the insurance contract. You lost on these European debt bets, whatever you bet in over there, whether it's these bonds or anything else, bank stocks, whatever you bet on, tied to that European debt, or the European zone, anything financial, for God's sakes, you lost. Now you need the credit default swap to kick in so that you can be made whole again, or at least close to whole again, for God's sakes. But you can't, because one of the biggest affected members was the guy who wrote most of those contracts, who now has to pay for the losses, but he's the one that's failing. In other words, the insurance company who you've been paying on your house for 25 years, same agency, never had a problem, everything's fine. A hurricane blows through, knocks your freaking house down. Your house is paid for, by the way. You owe nothing. Thank God I had never canceled my insurance when I got finished paying off this house, boy. Hoo-wee. Yellow. Yeah, listen, I'm number out of order. What the? No, I must have dialed it wrong. Let me try that again. Yellow. Oh my God, it's out of order. Go to the internet. What happened? What the hell? Oh, overnight this insurance company failed. They're filing bankruptcy today. They have no assets. The assets they claimed they had were actually garbage. Didn't really exist, but they claim they exist because that's what all of the guys do at the top. They claim they have all these assets in their portfolio. What their company's worth is just massive. Come to find out, I could take a dump in the toilet and that's worth more than the assets they claim they have. You like that little analogy? That was pretty nasty, but so are these banks. So the insurance companies, which are all the banks, because here's the thing, all of the banks, whether it's through a subsidiary or the bank itself, issue these damn credit default swaps, these insurance contracts to each other. So it's just a big round robin. You're going to be insured and I'm going to be insured by this guy and he's going to be insured by that guy and that guy's going to be insured by me also. It just goes in a big circle. Everyone insures each other. And if one catastrophic failure happens within the chain, none of the insurance contracts can be paid. Or at least, maybe I shouldn't say none. Some probably could be paid, but the bulk that will need to be paid won't be able to be paid unless we have banker bailout 2.0. And I don't know that 2.0 is big enough. I think I'm going to have to go to like 10.0. We went from 1.0 in 2008 to like 1.5 version 1.5 through the last few years, and we're going straight to 10.0. It would be the only way that these banks would not fail is to print a massive amount of money that you just could not even fathom. You would not accept it. You would not even understand it. When you hear it, it would just boggle the mind. So either A, we're going to have that, and that's how it's going to go down, and there won't be any catastrophic failures because they will not let any of these banks go down, which means when they say, well, we owe trillions and trillions on these credit default swaps, and that's just the beginning. We got to make them whole. We got to do it. Can't let this bank fail. Or they'll get to the point where, as Lindsey Williams said, the Eurozone is going down. The euro is going down. He said this a while ago, and he's reiterated recently too. When the euro goes, next to goes the US dollar. But it'll start in Europe first, and when you see that thing really go down and collapse, he said you should have just a few weeks to several weeks out. So in other words, maybe a month to 2 months max. And that was his, I don't know if that was his opinion of timing or the guy specifically told him. Nonetheless, it doesn't really matter. But it'll go there first, it will collapse, and then when it collapses, it comes over to America after that. And he said if you're an American or have money in America, after you see that take place in Europe, you have a matter of weeks to get your financial house in order and get your paper assets, or whatever you want to call them, out of the system, turn it into cash at least, turn it into gold and silver specifically, after turning it into cash. And if you have a 401k, I don't care what it takes to get out of it, you better do it. And put it in the gold and silver and prepare for that to happen next in America. So we have on one hand a potential for a massive bailout of unheard of proportions. On the other hand, they may let that puppy just die once and for all so that they can come out with their new proposal, which would be, of course, New World Order. And considering the year is 2012, and there's if you want to talk about the most occult timing or date in the entire world's history that these elite love, you know they love, for example, the April 19th, April 20 dates. That is a very occult date. And they love to do things on that date, which was also the oil spill. It was also Ruby Ridge. I think it may have been Oklahoma City bombing. There's a few things it was. And it's interesting to see them pull these things off on these occult dates and then just say it was just, you know, a natural thing, or the oil rig blew up by itself. I mean, just happened to be out of 365 days in the year, major events, I'm talking things you do not forget, happen on that exact date. I'm not buying that it was by chance. So, who cares about April 19th or 20th? What is that? We've got a date, December 21st, 2012. That's a 5,125 year cycle. And there's 5 of those cycles in the grand cycle of 26, approximately 26,000 years, which is the precession of the equinox. And I believe that 26,000 year cycle is also coming due on the same date, because we have the 1,125 year cycles, and the 5 of those make the 26,000 year cycle. I've never known for sure if the 26,000 year cycle really is starting new this time around on this particular cycle, December 21st or 2012, along with it the fact that it's already, because basically if you have a 26,000 year cycle and you have 5 of the smaller cycles of 5,125 years, and it takes 5 of those, every 5th one of those is going to be the 26,000 year cycle anyways, and it starts all over new again, another 26,000 years to go, and then you have the 5,000 cycles 5 times in that cycle. I don't know for sure, and even though people say it's true, I don't have the evidence or I haven't seen anything that really proves to me that 100% this is the 26,000 year cycle resetting along with that 5,125 year. I don't know that. I know for a fact it's the 5,125 year cycle without a doubt. And I think it doesn't matter, to tell you the truth, whether that 26,000 year cycle is included or not. Don't believe so. So, having said that, back to the banker story. Man, would it really be perfect for them to reset the entire system and destroy it on or about that time frame, if they can make it last that long? And if not, it'll just be 2012, and that's still the same year of the end of the cycle. Will be good enough for me. I don't see them bailing out these guys indefinitely. I think they're going to bail them out. There'll probably be more bailouts coming. Again, we're probably getting ready for quantitative easing 3 to kick in here in America, in probably preparation to deal with Europe. I don't know what, they wouldn't really have to bail out all those banks if the Eurozone's going to be destroyed anyways, and it's going to break apart. But they may realize, we're the bankers, we're in charge, we want that bailout money anyways. If it's going down the tubes, then give us our money anyways. And the governments may just do that and do the biggest bailout you've ever seen, shortly followed by a collapse, even though they got this massive bailout that was of unheard of proportions. And then the same thing happens in America. We have quantitative easing 3, massive amount of stimulus, whatever. And then all of a sudden, that happens over in Europe, and we hear a big story over here. Well, we're affected because our banks are intertwined with their banks. I know we just did this huge bailout, but it's not going to do anything to fix Europe, and it certainly can't fix us. We've got counterparty risk over there now, and we may just keep printing over here for a little while until the rest of the world realizes we don't want dollars anymore because you guys are out of control, which goes right in line with Lindsey Williams' story, etc. So, the long story short, even Germany, even the prized role model state of the EU, Germany, has got major problems with its largest banks. So bozo lady at JP Morgan Chase that my dad talked to looked at him like he was an idiot for even mentioning anything. We're the largest bank in America. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Well, I remember hearing that when I was a kid. Talking about the big bullies, right? The bigger they are, the harder they fall. JP Morgan's a bully. All the big banks are bullies. And all the big banks are the largest. So, the bigger they are, the harder they're going to fall. And I feel sorry for people who may bank with those entities. I don't. I won't. And even if I did, as I've said before, I will keep maybe 1 month, a little more than 1 month's worth of money, 2 months maybe at the max, at any given time, because it fluctuates, in the bank. The rest of it I take out, and I usually buy a little silver or whatever on the side. If not, I just keep the cash in my possession. Not in my pocket, but you know what I mean, in my safe or whatever. And then watch silver prices, and sure enough, like the other day, I bought 20 ounces. And I'm back to an even round number that I wanted to be at. And If it goes down more, I'll make it happen to get some more. If it starts going up from now, fine. I've already got my goal. I've told you I've had a couple different goals. So I'll ride it back to the top and sit on the sidelines. And by the way, I'm going to end this video by saying I was watching that TV show called Pawn Stars. It's the guy, I think it's in Las Vegas. The guy and his old man, the guy's bald, his old man's not bald, but they called him the old man. He's got his son Corey and Chumley, the employee. It's a very family friendly show. It is pretty entertaining, and they don't have to be disgusting like a lot of these other shows. Even though the name of the show is Pawn Stars, whatever. It's a catchy name, I guess, if you want to call it that. Nonetheless, a guy comes in. He may have been my age. It was hard for me to tell. Maybe a little older than me. Probably a little older than me. He says, my father taught me some things when I was younger and explained to me why I should be stocking like precious metals, and he told me to go with silver. So during the 1990s, I've been collecting silver for the whole time. This guy, I think, had a 1,000-ounce bar that weighed like 70 pounds. He had a whole bunch of 100-ounce bars. He had bags full of junk silver, or basically the quarters, dimes from like 1964 and prior, or whatever. Junk silver, they call it. I love that name, junk silver. Yet a quarter's worth like $6 or $7, and a dime is worth like $2.50 to sometimes $3. But it's junk silver. Okay. So, anyways, he had at market spot price. He had $115,000. $115,000 in his possession. They wanted to give him $110,000 or somewhere around there for that. And he was trying to say, well, can you do 112 or can you do 100? You know, he's like, look, we're making $5,000 off of $100,000 profit for you. There's not any room for us to move. And he says, yeah, I understand. He's like, besides, I'll tell you right now, if you want to go shop this and bring this thing around somewhere to go to the coin dealers, they're probably going to give you $1 or more under spot price. We're willing to do a little better than that. So he says, yeah, you're right. All right, I'll sell it. I'll do the deal. Done. He goes, besides, I paid a lot less than what you're giving me this, so I'm pretty happy. And then they had the little facts come up on the screen. In the 90s and the early 2000s, silver was trading between $3 and $4 an ounce. Or something like that, right? And it's true, it was around there. $4 an ounce, he paid for that. Today's price, which I don't know when this was recorded, and I didn't do that. I don't remember how many ounces he actually brought him. I don't know if they even said. But $115,000 worth, and he gave me $110,000. He probably spent, in my opinion, $4 an ounce times 8 would be $32. And it's very possible, because I think they may have had the price up there, and it was right around $32, to tell you the truth. So it's 8 times the value. He sold it for 8 times what he paid for it. So he probably bought this stuff for somewhere between $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 and got a return of $110,000. And by the way, I know he paid $4 back then, and today's prices, we're sitting here looking at 28, 29, 30, 31, back to 28, back to 32, 33, back to 28, 30, right? The same thing that he just dealt with and unloaded at $32 an ounce is going to happen again, except it's not going to be people unloading at $32 an ounce. It's going to be people right now realizing this is the greatest time to buy in a long time. I'm buying now. And in the future, when it's $60, $70, $80, $100 or much, much higher, you'll be looking back saying, and I don't know that you'll get the opportunity to sell it at, 8 times its value of $30. That would be roughly, $320. But that number is not far-fetched. I don't think, or let me restate that a different way, $320 for silver should easily be doable, considering the conditions we're about to be facing. We already are facing. The financial world is facing. $320 should not be a problem at all for silver. As a matter of fact, it could go much, much higher than that, and I think it very well could. It's just a matter of when. But as this guy waited all this time to sell, do you think he really cares being able to turn his $12,000 whatever dollar investment into $110,000? And can you imagine if he sold it last year when it was $50 an ounce at that particular moment, or when it was in the high 40s? The guy would have had a ton more money. Having said that, I don't want to tell him that if he waited even longer and it's over $100, $200 and then sold it, he would just be like a millionaire. But he's still pretty happy, and I'd be happy for him too, watching that show. So anyways, I gotta run inside. Want to share that with you. The biggest banks, the safest banks, Germany, were sound. Oh, we're all affected by this mess too. Oh, isn't that amazing? Anyways, take care.